Alright, now moving on to the madhab of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, rahmatullah alayh. The madhahib from the next other three madhahib, other than Hanafi, they are almost on the same page. They say that tahara is only attainable by the teachings of Sharia. Purity can only be attained how Allah and His Messenger has taught us. You wouldn't be able to become pure except how the Sharia told you. For example, how to do wudu and so on. Something which can only be attained by what Sharia has told us how to attain it, you can only invalidate or lose it the way Sharia has told you to lose it. So they say there is no Shari'i daleel, acceptable daleel on bleeding from other than the two passages. There is no daleel, there is no proof, clear cut that you can lose wudu by it. So you can't lose wudu by it. The wudu will not be invalidated by something which is not clearly defined by the Sharia as the invalidator of the wudu, if that makes sense. So that's why they have the view that bleeding does not break wudu. But they have a unique position in that as well, which is different than Imam Malik and Imam Shafiee. Hanbali, they said if it's a lot of bleeding, it will break wudu. If it's little bit bleeding which you wouldn't worry about much, or someone, if you show to someone, they say it's a little bit bleeding, it's not excessive bleeding, they say that wouldn't break wudu. For someone who is scared of blood, for them a drop is too much. It's a lot. He was shouting, I'm bleeding a lot, probably a little bit. And someone who is used to being hurt all the time, he's bleeding and he's, having his coffee, he's going to bandage it later on. People have different view. So they say, in the society, on average, what would be considered as a lot of blood will break wudu. Why do they have that view? Because Allah said in the Quran, specifically, is because ayah of the Quran said, it is haram for you maytatan wa daman masfuhan. Daman masfuhan means, when you slaughter the goat or something and it flows in large amount. So that's large amount of blood. So that's even actually Malikis, they have a view. There is in one of the books of Malikis, I'm sure they've mentioned it. But the Hanbalis, they are very clear in that. If it's a lot of blood, based on that ayah, they say that's haram. So that's najas, and it becomes daman masfuh. So that will break your wudu. So the Hanbalis, they don't say like Hanafis, the blood will break wudu, but they say if it's large amount, if it's big amounts, it will break wudu. Okay, based on the ayah. And also they take from the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, إذا كان فاحشا فعليه الإعادة. If the blood was fahishan, meaning they translate as if it was a lot, then he will have to do the wudu again. As for little bleeding, we know from Ibn Abbas himself, he bled and he prayed without doing wudu. There is also another hadith the Hanbalis they use, and I think the others they use it as well, other than Hanafis. احتجم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولم يتوضأ. Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم, he did hijama, and after hijama he didn't do wudu and he prayed. But that hadith is also da'if. Okay. The hadith is in Daraqutni and Bayhaqi. But the whole reason that we are discussing this and the different views on the matter like this is because there is no clear-cut narration on one side of the argument. So Malikis and Shafi'is, they are very close to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and they take from the hadith of in Ghazwa, it's called Ghazwa Dhatul Riqa. In this Ghazwa, there were two Sahaba. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked, who will be the security guys? So in this hadith, two Sahabi, Ammar bin Yasir and Abad bin Bishr, they were the two, they were guarding, they were on the night duty. Ammar radiallahu anhu, he was going to have a rest first, while the other, he started Salah, and while he was praying Salah, someone came from the enemy and he shot him with an arrow. Shot him with an arrow and he continued praying. Then he shot him another arrow, he continued praying, and shot him third arrow. Then he walked up to Ammar and woke him up. Ammar told him, why didn't you wake me up in the first arrow? He said, I had started Surah Kahf, I wanted to finish it. And if I didn't fare, then I might get, unconscious, or I may die. I wouldn't have woken you up, but I don't want Muslims to be unaware. So the other guy, when Ammar woke up, he saw there are two people, he ran away. Is it possible that hadith didn't reach Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? He was guarding Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There is no narration Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying to him, well, your salah was broken. There is no narration. But why isn't there? So they say, well, and why was he still praying? Why was he still praying? If he knows he's bleeding, he took the arrow out the first time, continued praying the second time. So the Maliki and Shafi'i madhab, they say, well, it doesn't break salah. The wudu was intact. That's why he was praying. And that we haven't heard from anyone. And they know that the Sahaba, they were fighting all the time. 28 ghazawat in the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. How many battles they have fought, and how many injuries, and how many blood. Never heard anyone, there is no hadith, authentic hadith or narration saying blood breaks wudu. So they say, well, it doesn't break wudu. So from that, the Maliki and Shafi'is and Hanbalis, they don't say the blood breaks wudu, but Hanbalis do say if it's a lot, it breaks wudu. Hanafi says, well, even if it's small amounts, it's as long as it has emerged from the wound up, that doesn't break wudu. But once it starts leaving the place and flowing down, it emerges and it goes on to the place which was clean, and then it moves from its place, that breaks the wudu. So that's the end of the matter regarding the views they have on whether wudu breaks from bleeding or not, which is, we are talking about bleeding not from the two passages but from other parts of the body.